through kind of that interface and what you're seeing on there?
Okay. So first of all, this is just strictly our interface for research and development here at our lab. This is not the interface that the end user would actually be using or see. But it's right now, we're in the process of redoing our cloud server for all the math computation stuff. So doing the true web interface piece at the moment is a little bit more of a challenge to demo until we get that piece back onto the server back up and doing it. So this program here is doing the computations from what it downloads off the cloud for the raw optical data.
Okay.
So what I'm showing right now, so this first tab that I'm on is showing the pH testing that we've been doing against the scientific instruments that are sitting here next to me. So it's about a little over a month's worth of data. The yellow line is a representation of the Mindstream, and I can toggle it on and off here, and you can see the background, the purple trace, that is from the precision pH instrument from Sunburst Sensors. So we're able to see how well we track. I don't know if you're able to, can you see anything on your screen yet?
Yeah, I can. Claire's got it on hers, so we'll go with that. But describe what you're seeing there, and I'll.
Okay. So where the cursor is right now, this event right here is where I added a very high level of CO2 to the system to shock it and bring the pH well below 7. And this is an example of an event where I put the thing into an extreme condition that did cause, ultimately did cause it to have some errors for about a couple-day period before the errors subsided and it eventually recovered. So, this is, the system is not perfect in that it's not going to handle all cases, but as long as the aquarist is not going into some of these extremes, it should be quite stable. So next, actually, I'm going to move on to carbon dioxide here. So the carbon dioxide, which is the primary parameter of interest for our ultimately calculating the alkalinity, you can see the purple lines in the background. And the purple line in the background, that's the precision instrument from Sunburst Sensors. There are some little spots, intermittent spots in the data where you'll see little line segments missing. If the Sunburst system gets a bubble in its reagent line, it can't get a reading, and so it doesn't report the data. So we've got some little segments here that have little teeny pieces that are missing, and it's because it had a bubble during the measurement cycles. But when you compare the Mindstream over top of it, you can see it has a very nice match up until the same event where I put a very high dose of carbon dioxide into the system right here around the 23rd of this last month. And then after that, for a period of several days, again, the sensor was in error, and then eventually it came back to being stable and matching up again. So what this means in terms of the alkalinity, here is a comparison of the alkalinity where we're comparing the yellow trace is the Mindstream monitor, and the purple trace is the alkalinity determined by the Sunburst sensor measurement systems. So in the beginning, way back over in this area here, in fact, let me zoom backwards a little bit so I can show that segment a little bit better. Go to, let's say, 720. So starting out over here, this first drop is where I went and I added acid to the water to remove some of the alkalinity. Then I hooked up the peristaltic pump and started dosing some alkalinity, which slowly ramps the alkalinity back up. I then used the peristaltic pump to slowly dose some acid back in and bring it back down. And then we let the system go and run stable for a period of time so we can just see how well the two track against each other. And so you can see that they do track fairly closely. It's certainly not perfect, but the readings are well within, certainly throughout this whole range up to here. It's certainly less than the 10% error on the alkalinity. Where the cursor is right now, that's the point where we shock the system by doing that a very high level of CO2. When I say high level, I'm talking about 10 to 20 times higher than what you would normally see from ambient room conditions. And as a result, since the sensors in our system ended up having an error, you can see that the alkalinity no longer tracked what the precision equipment was seeing at that point as well. But this gives you a little bit of a flavor for what we're looking at for the general resolution of the alkalinity measurement. We're working on trying to refine this further. We think we can we have some ideas on how to get this to be even closer over time. But a lot of this comes down to the procedures that we use in the calibration steps. And if we can get it into a production process that's basically fast and affordable to the large scale audience. We have an interesting little tool over here, and this is one of the ones that won't be in the initial user interface on the web, but will come to the interface at some point in the future. I have an ability to show the history of where your calcium and alkalinity have been and where you're going. So I can roll backwards or forwards in time and show. Can you see it right now?
You're going to make our viewers start drooling at this point.
So I can see that with my calcium pump pumping in that I'm heading towards a target zone over here. And then as I go forward a little bit further, see I'm getting closer to the target. Oh, and then I overshot because I added a big shot of calcium and I overshot. It's coming back towards the target. So in a sense, what you've got is sort of like a live trail of showing you where you've been and where your calcium and alkalinity are heading.
That's huge. Yeah, I think every reefer's been out there before and overdosed something or not seen the relationship. I mean, do you see in the data that you've, looked at now as you've, played with that for some number of months, right? I mean, do you see, because so many of these parameters are related, are there interesting correlations that you'll see between some of those graphs as you put them together? Things that, again, we haven't had when we're just doing titrations once a week or what have you?
Yeah, certainly. I believe that when people start getting into doing dosing based on this, this is going to really help immensely from, like right now, for example, you see this little dotted line that shoots out ahead of the thing here. You can see where the trend is heading based on that that indicator. So whether what you're configuring your doser to do is going in the right direction.
Yeah, that's huge.
Now let me think here. So there's some other aspects to it here. So let me go back to the calcium here. So this, again, keep in mind, this right here is a test chamber that these tests were running in. So I was able to do ramping up, ramping down. I could play with things without, messing up any coral or fish. But this gives you an idea as to the resolution that we have for doing like additions of calcium and doing basically most of these ramps up and down were done through the use of using this peristaltic pump that was sitting on top of the test chamber, where I'm adding water that's either high in calcium or has no calcium to bring it back down. But this level of resolution is really not available in test kits.
Yeah, you'd be doing, and even if you had it in the test kit, you'd have to do it so often to get your graph and get your line and see what you're trending. That has not existed. That's interesting.
Yeah, and so then also things like here, if I bring this back to here, so this is a plot showing what the history over time during the course of my little experiments. What was happening to the salinity within my water. I've also got over here the temperature parameters. Now, the yellow line is the temperature as measured in the test chamber itself. So that's the temperature controller for the test chamber. We can see how closely the temperature that the monitor is reading tracks to what the test chamber reads as well. The green line above, that's actually just the circuit board temperature, which that parameter won't be visible to the to the end users. And then these are the raw optical readings from different sensors within the system. So we have the ability, like if I go over to a pH sensor here, and let me bring over a cursor. I'm going to show you an example of something. Let's go to, and all right, so hold on. So if you ignore this piece here, this temperature correlation, that's for our calibration system, which is the data here is not being used at this point in time at least for the purposes of this particular demo. Let me turn off some things here. So as I move this cursor around, you'll see over on this thing, it says the patch scan.
Mm-hmm.
That patch scan is a gauge of how smooth is the surface on that sensor, or how clean is that sensor. So as I slide this up and down, I can see that all of the surface is all very uniform and is tightly clustered together. If a sensor gets biofouling, what you'll see is dips and valleys along these lines. There's the cleaning brush cleans just the lenses, but the sensors themselves don't have any auto cleaning on them. So what we would have is our software, if it detects little dips and valleys in any points along the reading that are not consistent with the other parts of the surface of that sensor, it allows us to know that there's some kind of biofouling or something is stuck to the surface, and it'll issue an alert to have the user rinse the disk.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, in basic summary, that's what the interface looks like for at least the development piece. We'll have to do a different segment where we go over what the end user interface looks like, which we can set up another arrangement if you would like.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you stepping through that data with us, though. It's really cool to see how all of that stuff is tracked and what it'll ultimately look like. Thanks for going through that. Well, I appreciate your time today. I think we're right up against the hour here, so I want to be mindful of your time, and I guess we could maybe circle up, for a future segment here. But before we end this one, I did want to just let everybody know too. You guys have the Kickstarter window wide open right now through MACNA, correct?
Yes.
So I see the goal is popping up there, and everybody who'd like to get on board there, you can go to Kickstarter.com and search for Mindstream, and you'll see their landing page there with their funding to date and how many days there are to go. And we encourage anybody that sees value in this kind of technology, which should be a lot of us reefers out there, to be a part of getting it to market. So, Tim, I wanted to thank you today for going over that stuff with us. It was a pleasure to meet you, and we'll show the reefers around the world what this stuff looks like, and appreciate you going over it with us.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity, and next time we'll have to see if we can find a way of getting cordless on the camera systems here so that we can do a little bit better tour through the facilities.
Excellent. Thanks again for the time.
Yep. Thank you.